mysterious death curse washes over the land, driven by a powerful artifact known as the Soulmonger. 4 would-be heroes have been sent to the jungles of Chult to destroy the cause of this terrible affliction. Vale, the half-elven paladin, who's just now learning of his divinely granted powers. Ubo, the total monk from a distant land, who's as quick with his wit as he is with his staff. Asimar warlock, sent on this quest by her temple, discovering herself in this strange new land. And gunslinger Cole, tiefling artificer and archaeologist who may just dig up more than she bargained for. This motley band of adventurers must work together to brave the poisonous plants, venomous monsters, thundering dinosaurs, and rotting undead of the jungle. Join the omnipotent dungeon master Jake from mtd&d to see if our heroes can find the Soulmonger, uncover the deeper mysteries of Chult, and free the world from the death curse. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to Chult of Personality.
All right. Hey, internets, it's Jake. This is mtd&d, Chult of Personality, a Tomb of Annihilation campaign, and this is episode 3. And you can find us right here on twitch.tv/mini-terrain-domain on Monday nights at 8:30 Eastern. And starting next week, these videos will also be going up a week later on youtube.com/mini-terrain-domain. So you can watch them at your leisure, as well as in the video sections here on Twitch. I am pleased to be able to introduce my players once again. So to my screen left here is Mike the Piper, playing Vale Istafal, the half-elf paladin. To my screen right here is Marquise, the stereotypical strider, and from a point of inspiration, playing Gunslinger Cole, the tiefling artificer. And right down here in this corner, playing a turtle monk, and the other half of the Something RPGist podcast with myself, it's Drake, the RPG construct, also known in the game as Ubo. And right down here in this corner, last and most certainly not least, playing our Aasimar Warlock, Berlinia, from the YouTube channel Dice on Ice, it's Megan. Howdy, everybody. Are you guys ready to play some D&D?
Let's do it.
All right. So last week, our characters had moved on to just into the Red Bazaar in the city of Port Nyanzaru, looking for the raucous good time that could be found at the Thundering Lizard Tavern and Inn. On their way there, Gunslinger Cole wandered off in search of who knows what. Perhaps she'll be able to tell us in a little bit. And before entering the tavern, they got a sense of what kind of a place this was when a drunken, disorderly patron was thrown through the window and knocked them all over like so many bowling pins. Despite that, they were not deterred, and they went in to enjoy some good drink and some good food. Though some, Berlinia in particular, questioned just how good that food was when they got to partake of large, delicious beetles known as yaka. And that's exactly what Berlinia did, was after eating one, was go out into the front and yaka it all up all over the place. Also joining them at the their meal was he introduced himself and kind of imposed himself upon them, was none other than Volo Gadarm. Overhearing that they were in Chult and at this particular place at the behest of Wakanga Otamu, he introduced himself as an entrepreneur and explorer who is in town peddling his new book, Volo's Guide to Monsters, which he offered them for sale for 50 gold pieces. They have yet to take him up on that offer. He also told them quite a bit of information about, so a few rumors about the location of Chult, things they could expect. And he gave them a couple pieces of important information, such as that they would need to go to Fort Belaru to obtain a charter of exploration, lest they invoke the wrath and ire of the Flaming Fist, some enforcers from the fort. The rest of their meal and relaxation was interrupted by a sudden outbreak of illegal nighttime dinosaur street racing, wherein we let the players take control of various dinosaurs. And the 3 dinosaurs in the race were the Dimetrodon, known as Triple Crown Royal, the young Triceratops, known as Fruit on the Bottom, and the ferocious young T-Rex, known as the Fury of the Nine Hells. It was a vicious, off-the-chain race that started with a little bit of blood, and soon the T-Rex was left far in the dust. The Dimetrodon took the lead for most of the race until the photo finish, wherein Fruit on the Bottom, the Triceratops, took the win. Just as the race was ending and our friends were observing, they saw Gunslinger Cole emerged from the crowd across the racetrack, coming over to them. But she did not see the T-Rex that was still a little bit ramped up from the race. It swung its tail wildly, smacking into the back of Gunslinger Cole, knocking her 15 feet, where she skidded across the pavement and landed unconscious. And that's where we pick up tonight's game. And for the very first action, Gunslinger Cole, I want you to make a death saving throw.
3.
The 3 of you, Berlinia, Vale, and Ubo, run up to find your companion, Gunslinger Cole, where she has been knocked and skidded along the ground, her form lying in a jumble of limbs, and what you can see is blood pooling. What are you doing? How are you reacting to this?
I think that Berlinia would immediately get down and kneel beside Cole and just begin to kind of get into her zone of healing and that. And her hands would immediately begin to glow as she's kind of not touching, but very closely going over all the wounds and everything on Cole's body. And I am essentially casting Cure Wounds.
All right. And how many hit points are you going to be healing Cole?
7.
Gunslinger Cole, what does it feel like as the pain does not go away? Your body is racked with the trauma of this unforeseen this unforeseen assault, and as you start to come through, describe this.
Imagine a watermelon being smashed in by a maul, but the watermelon is still sentient and now is extremely pissed off. So I imagine the camera is like focusing on the Azamar as she heals Cole, and then her eyes snap open and her hand just grabs her by the collar of her vestments and pulls her down into their faces just a few inches apart. They look at each other for a moment, a very, very brief moment, and then she shoves her back and she whispers under her breath, "Bashaba, Bashaba."
seeing this, Ubo would, when he pulled her very closely, he would have that staff in his hand, and he would very quickly probably bring it within an inch of Cole's face, and almost get ready to strike as he kind of pushed her back, just trying to protect Berlinia.
Relax, Ubo, relax. It's reflex, darling. You gotta learn them if you want to live in the world. And as she's saying this, she's standing up as well.
Those reflexes weren't that sharp when you got hit by the dinosaur's tail, now were they?
True that, Ubo, true that. And then she reaches up and she kind of touches the left earring and she says, misfortune always comes, but it's because I got a bit of luck, too. And she hits the other earring and she reaches into her coat and she's going to pull out a thick tome. The cover of it, not even really bound in leather or anything, but actually bound in 2 bamboo slats.
And Vale, like I'll probably be nearby, and I will go up to Cole and say, well, I know a thing or two about luck, and well, I'm just happy you're all right. You gave us a bit of a scare there, but good to know you're in one piece, more or less. And I'll clasp her arm in kind of like the warrior's kind of like handshake, kind of forearm to forearm. And unknowingly, so I know as a player, but I don't know as a character, I'm casting Lay on Hands. And I'll heal you for another 5.
All right.
5 points of doodly bop, skittle bop.
I imagine that Cole is very self-aware of how her body is, given the amount of time she's kind of spent in the wilderness with her survival training and everything. And she reaches up to where her horn is, and she goes to touch the wound, and she feels nothing but just knitted skin underneath it, the slightest of scars. And she smiles and she looks down to you and she says, I see this party's full of secrets. Many things we got going on.
Mike, roll a perception check.
Well, all right then. 9.
All right.
I've received nothing.
Sometimes I may not tell you guys what you're rolling for, and sometimes I may not tell you anything if you roll an obvious low roll. So, as this scene is kind of resolving and the crowd is starting to disperse, as it is quite obvious that this was an illegal gathering, though there doesn't seem to be any sign of merchant princes or any of the city guards or anybody like that trying to stop anything. And that may be because the person that won the race and won the ownership papers of the other dinosaurs has very quickly taken them away. And with the dinos gone, the crowd is dispersing. A few people are starting to filter back into the Thundering Lizard. It's getting fairly late in the night. Not so late that it would be out of the question to sit and eat and drink and talk more. But late enough that it also wouldn't be out of the question to call it a night. And it is up to you, Gunslinger Cole, if you want to tell everybody what you were up to when you left everybody.
Before she would do that, she would kind of indicate with one of her horns towards the Thundering Lizard and begin walking that way, assuming everyone's coming with her as she walks towards it. And once they would have a booth or a table or whatever they had on the inside and everything, she would put that bamboo slat covered book, or a bound book I should say, onto the table and begin to flip it open. And what they would see in these old leathery pages, actually made perhaps even on thunder lizard skin, dinosaur skin, is just all these kind of diagrams and all these biological anatomy things. And she begins to speak almost absentmindedly. She flips it open saying, Well, I went looking for a few things I wanted to know about Chult before we go diving on the inside. Couldn't find a lot much. My rivals are very, what's the word, stingy. There we go, very stingy. But I was able to get this, a book on medicines, or to be more specific, a book on the diseases of Chult. Let's just say that drinking the water is not the wisest thing that we can do.
And one other piece of information that you would have picked up while you were out and about is you would have picked up, and you heard this from more than one source. There were a lot of rumors floating around. Sometimes it's difficult to discern what is real and what's not. But this one at least was enough that you took note of it. And that is that it's believed that Chult was once the playground for a green dragon. And that this dragon's bones mark the location of a hidden treasure trove.
I imagine that as Cole was reading this, like she's like positioned herself so she has like one leg up and she has like this long parchment that she kind of writes random rumors and things she sees on it, and she just recites directly what you said, Jake, to the rest of the party.
And the rumor goes on to say that if you travel to Mesro and head east across the Laughing Gorge, then south toward Kir Sabal, you might stumble on the dragon's bones and earn yourself a place in the history books. All right. Now that you guys are in the Thundering Lizard, the crowd is a bit thinner. The band has wrapped up, except for a lone sitar player sitting in the corner, plucking out a tune befitting a late evening. And there's still a handful of people. You do notice that you would notice that Volo appears to have called it a night. He's not anywhere to be seen in the tavern portion. And the only other person that you met, Salida, one of the guides, has also apparently called it a night or has slunk off to some other shadow somewhere.
Jake, would we be sitting back at that same table with all of our food? Well, I would assume that we would.
I mean, once Cole went in, you guys already still had your table, your drinks. The food plate was cleared away, but your drinks are still there. And the same serving woman in the brightly colored, bright green dress, or rather the clothes with the bright green sash, she would have shown up with another full pitcher of Tej.
And I would ask her, excuse me, ma'am, we have a new member of our group here, and she's been through quite a bit this evening. I'm sure she's famished. I would love a few more of those yucca beetles. They were so amazingly flavorful. I would love my friend to be able to sample some of this Chultan cuisine. Please, bring a few more.
Absolutely. I'll be right back. And she disappears, and as there's very little prep time needed for the yucca, she returns only moments later with a tray laden with a half a dozen of these magnificent, nearly fist-sized beetles.
And as she put them down, I would grab one and I would just hand one over to Cole. Like, please, all of us have sampled this. You must try it. They are amazing.
She would take it, and she would kind of like hold it in both of her hands and put it on the table in front of her. She would turn it so like the head of it is facing everyone else, and she would open the wings from the back, and she would begin saying, "Once I dined with a tribe of orcs, and they gave me what they called brain of oryx mixed with brain of goblin. Not very good, nor very healthy. In fact, I was sick for 3 weeks afterwards, but this can't be that bad. And once it's kind of open from the back, she's going to reach in with her fingers and pull out like a chunk from the thorax and taste it.
What does it taste like to Cole?
She can't quite name the spice that it comes from, but if she had to compare it to something else, it tastes like beer that's so yeasty that you can chew it, mixed with Fanta, like grape Fanta.
And the whole time he's doing that, Ubo would be sitting there going, mmm.
I've had worse. It's not that bad. And she's just like licking her fingers sometimes.
And I would be visibly disappointed at the lack of reaction from Cole.
I'm going to look at Berlini and say, you fancy another one then? Come on. I'm sure we can round up some of the mother town folks there and start chanting your name again.
And like Berlinia again would just have this, like, she would almost turn green at the thought of, you know, redoing the event that happened earlier. And she would actually call over the bartender and be like, could I get a glass of water, please? As you can see, like, the Tej she has is untouched.
Are you certain that it is water that you want?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Okay, we can make this for you. And she disappears for longer than it took to bring the beetles. And she does bring back a cup of water that is room temperature, at least, but it's clean and clear.
Brill. I know that we haven't gone off the best foot, but I feel I should warn you since I brought the book here for us to read and listen from and everything. I feel like you should purify that water if you can, or just not drink it and settle for the alcohol.
And
Trust me.
the woman server actually stops in her tracks where she was walking away and begins doing this like tutting kind of sound. And she kind of has one hand on her hip and a finger in your face and is going, no. You don't get to question the quality of the water at the Thundering Lizard. Water is not the primary thing that people drink in the inn, but we purify all of our water. It is boiled and filtered twice. You don't need to worry about that, but you keep that head on your shoulders in the jungle. And she turns to head back to the kitchens, kind of shaking her head and kind of, well, I never is questioning my water.
Cole shakes his shoulders and continues eating and kind of like motions for Bro to just go ahead and drink.
Yeah, Berlinia would just kind of like look at the water, kind of smell it a little bit, and then go ahead and drink it. She says, I don't know what we'll do. There's no good water in the jungle. I've never tried, what was it? Tej?
Tej, yeah. It's delicious. It's like, how would you describe it? And she points to the only human in the room. Vale. Or I guess half-elf, technically.
Well, it's like Chulton mead. I mean, it's honey and boiled and fermented, and I mean, it's sweet. Do you like sweet things, or do you like more savory?
Oh, yes, I do love sweet things like fruit and berries.
Right, okay,
Yes.
then. Okay, well, then, you know, this is honey. I mean, yeah, it comes out of bee's bottom, but I mean, once you let it sit there for a little bit and ferment, I mean, it gets alcoholic, and then it becomes really quite manageable. Don't know why you don't want it. It's quite good. I mean,
Well, we were told by the elders never to drink this type of thing.
Okay, sweetie. And she just continues like eating from the beetle in front of her. Giving
Actually-
a very condescending shake head.
Actually, if I remember, The rule is you cannot drink of the fermentation of grape or grain. This is made from honey. This would not offend your god.
She kind of looks at it as if she's like really contemplating like this statement. We're not sure, but we'll give it a try. And she would go and just take a sip, and she would, oh, this is very interesting. We really like this.
We?
Yeah, we? Strange.
Are you drunk already? Choir girls. And then she's going to dip some of the beetle into the tej and then eat it and just smile and say, tastes like grape when you do it, and it's amazing.
And it's about this time you hear a from near, kind of, I would imagine, kind of coming up behind Berlinia. You hear, pardon me. I do not mean to interrupt. But, well, may I interrupt? And despite the gruff voice, those of you that immediately can see this person, you see a largish, probably about 6 foot, female half-orc standing there.
You already have.
And I do apologize for that, sir. But it is you, ma'am, that I wish to speak to in particular. And she kind of places a hand gently on your shoulder, Berlinia. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Undril Silvertusk, and I am a priest of Torm. I could not help but notice how quickly and effectively you dealt with your friend's injuries outside. I can see that you are touched by the gods, that you, too, have some of their magics in you. It is good that you were able to deal with your friend so quickly here, before she succumbed to death. I trust you've heard the rumors. Or should I say at this point, the facts of the death curse. Yes?
She would kind of turn, and she would kind of blink a little bit, and she says, yes, Ilmater bestows many blessings upon us. We have heard of the this curse, and that is why we are here.
I would also say that I am here for similar purposes. I am in the service of the Order of the Gauntlet. I have just arrived here in Port Nyanzaru. I had hoped, and you see her kind of pull at her neck, at her collar, and you realize she's wearing a heavy chain shirt, which is very out of place in this climate. And she's wearing like the padding that comes underneath it, and you can see and perhaps even smell that in her time in the city, she's been sweating quite profusely in this garb. And she says, I had hoped I would be able to purchase a horse here in town. But after talking to some of the locals and, well, experiencing the climate, I see that is not possible. I need to get to Fort Beluarian. I have a dispatch that I must get to Commander Niles' Breakhouse. Sorry, not Fort Beluarian. She says to Commander Niles' Breakbone at Camp Vengeance. I was hoping that I might join with somebody already headed in that direction, as I fear now that it is dangerous to travel alone. And I wonder if I might accompany you.
You say, well, we are traveling with these fine people, and I'm sure that they wouldn't mind someone as devout as you to come along with us. And she would look at them.
Brill, you don't speak for me. Half-orc, silver tusk, yes?
Yes.
She narrows her eyes and she leans forward, and you see both of the earrings dangling and they catch the firelight. And she looks at this half-orc again and she says, "Why are you here by yourself if your mission is this important?"
I am perfectly capable of handling myself, but I was simply not prepared for the extremities of this weather. I am not used to such things. I am from much further in the north. But as situations are dire all over the realms, the Order of the Gauntlet has seen fit to send emissaries throughout the land. I was chosen to come here. I do not question my orders. As I said, I was misguided in my assumptions of this land. I do not wish to put you out, nor do I wish to trouble you in any way. I simply seek the accompaniment of greater numbers to travel through what I'm finding is increasingly dangerous territory.
Sweetie, not only is your job pitch horrible because you're saying you're unprepared at everything you do, but we don't even know if we'd be going to this, Camp Vengeance? Why would we want to go through there? Everything in the jungle is dangerous, and every move that we make will have to be calculated and measured, or else we're dying like everybody else, being brought back from the dead, and then trying to kill you ourselves. So, I'm not interested. And then she leans back after that, and she lets the others say what they say.
Or maybe we could just help somebody who clearly needs help. I, for one, have no problem at all with you joining us on an excursion to Camp Vengeance. Besides, don't we need to go there to get some sort of a permit to go around killing things and acquiring wealth? And besides, if you come with us, young lady, and then he kind of pauses for a second. Yeah, if you come with us, young lady, there's a very good chance we could get you enough money to get out of that chain shirt and maybe into some leather armor for a change. Maybe nice, breathable. It's going to be a far cry better than a gambeson underneath a thick, heavy chain shirt.
I'm actually considering, once I reach my room, removing this armor and not putting it back on again anyway. It's more a formality at this point. And
well, fair enough, but I mean, we're in the Thundering Lizard. You just need to spend an afternoon here to realize that no one hears about formalities or help me out here, gunslinger or hoovered bow. What's the word I'm looking for? Niceties? No, it's not the right word.
well, as I'm sure this young woman can attest, those of us who serve the gods tend to cling to our rituals, to our formalities. But I would admit that the greater wisdom is to remove it. And
right.
I believe
so what
I
you're
heard
telling us.
I believe I heard you make mention of needing to gather a permit. I dare say that is actually in the opposite direction of where I wish to go. If you have not acquired a charter of exploration, you will need to go to Fort Beluarian for that.
How far is your camp from where we are now?
Those of you, actually all of you might actually remember mention of Camp Vengeance being south a few days along the river when Wakanga Otamu told you the tale of the wizard and the shield guardian construct that was left, Vorn, that was left in the jungle, that it was west of Camp Vengeance, actually. And you know this to be by river, that it's anywhere from 3 to 5 days' journey.
And I think Ubo would look at her and is you getting to this outpost time sensitive, or could you wait a few days for us?
I cannot say with certainty that I would wait more than a couple days for you to return, before perhaps finding my own way. Again, I was merely intrigued by your group and sought to join the company of others. If you are going elsewhere, I do not wish to put you out.
Jay, can I roll an insight check, please?
Absolutely.
9.
What are you trying to discern?
Just to see if that seems right, that she is kind of being genuine with that.
And anybody else can roll insight if you wish.
Instead of rolling insight, I'm going to have Cole take a coin out of her pocket. It's a gold coin, but half of it's been kind of like burnt black, kind of like Two-Face-ish, right? She's going to flip it in the air, and to symbolize that, I'm doing a D20 where 10 and over and 10 and lower. That makes sense. And I'm just doing this basically to see if she's going to go with it or just completely be against it.
All right.
I rolled a 16 on my insight.
All right. And how'd your coin flip go?
She catches the coin, and she uncovers it over the back of her red-skinned hand, and you see the black face. I got a natural 1 on the D20, so Bashaba. And she looks from it to the half-orc, and she says, "Only misfortune with you, sweetie. I'm still not in."
Vale, you believe her to be 100% sincere. She doesn't seem to be trying... She's not exhibiting anything that, at least in your experience, that indicates any sort of deception or weird body language.
Well, if it was up to me, I wouldn't mind helping you if you wouldn't mind helping us. We need to get to that fort there. What's the name of that fort then? Baron's Erzsebesen.
It is Fort Beluarian. And
right, that's it.
If you're going to journey by land, it's going to be 5 to 10 days on foot. Maybe less if you have a guide. I've heard that there is a ship that you can hire to go up along the coast that will take you there in as little as 2 days.
Right. Well, how do you fancy being on the ocean then? Oh, come on.
Listen. It's not that I'm trying to be difficult, guys.
No, you are trying to be difficult. You're doing a great job of it, though.
I know I'm doing... Listen.
I mean, class act.
Vale, love. You're a traveler, yes? But you're not an archaeologist. We need a guide before we do anything else. If it comes to leaving the city, even if we get on a boat, we need a guide. We need someone who knows the coast. We can't just be going blind into everything. People are dying in these jungles right now, and I'm not trying to be one of them.
Your friend, though a bit, for whatever reason, not seeing what is good in me, is wise. I can say that I've heard that to the north toward Fort Beluarian, and if you take the ships, other than perhaps pirates, you haven't too much to worry about compared to what lies for hundreds of miles to the south of here. But again, I no longer wish to be an inconvenience to you. You must seek yourself some guides, perhaps in the morning. I will bid you adieu, and if our paths should cross again, know that I would be most honored to make your acquaintance again.
Likewise.
She gives a bow, and you see her as she starts walking away, already starting to unclamp and unclasp the chain shirt.
As she walks away, Ubo would just kind of take a deep breath and kind of close his eyes, and you would hear him in a very muffled voice, and he would say, "A guide, yes. Only those that have traveled the road know where the holes are deepest."
But we should have helped her.
Well, it'd be nice if we could, but not if it's too far out of a way. Besides, even if we did, if we found anything, couldn't really do anything about it. I mean, we'd have to give it back, or we'd have to leave it, or else we'd face the wrath of these flaming fist lot. It'd be better off if we get ourselves a guide, go to Fort Belwarian, and then just go from there. Start finding up things, get some money. Cole, you like gold, don't you?
When you say that, you see that she's like furiously scribbling something on several pieces of parchment. She hears you saying, and she's like, depends on what shape it's in. Artifacts above all, baby. And then she keeps on writing.
Right. Well, I've rarely had a gold piece to move together myself. Barely had 2 coppers to rub. Be nice to get some money. I say we sleep on it, wake up in the morning with the dawn, and then we go out and make a name for ourselves, yeah?
Cole looks up, smiles. Yeah. And then she's going to stand up, shoulder her pack, and she's going to take these parchment she's been writing on and try and find Silver Tusk's room that she went to go sleep in.
You're going to try to find Silver Tusk.
Yes.
How are you going to do that?
Literally knock on doors.
Okay. Give me a D100 roll.
I love it. So first time, let's say 47.
It takes you till the third door until you find that Silver Tusk answers the door. You have nobody answered the first door, and the second door, a gnome who appeared to be quite angry and at being woken up, and perhaps she was half drunk, or perhaps all drunk, gave you quite an earful. But in the third door, you find Silver Tusk.
When Silver Tusk opens the door, she basically thrusts these papers into her hands, and she says, "This is everything that I can remember off the top of my head about Chult, since you're so unprepared." And then she's going to turn and start walking away from her.
She kind of mumbles, stumbles over her words, and then just as you kind of start to round the bend, you just hear, "May the blessings of Torm follow you through the jungles."
Yeah, heard it all before.
All right. So you guys all turning in for the night?
I think Ubo would sit outside of Berlinia's door, just kind of standing guard, and maybe nod off here and there.
Actually, I think when Berlinia would go to stand up from the table, she would kind of like falter a little bit, like grabbing onto the table, and she'd like put her hand on her head. And she's like, "Oh, I'm feeling quite feverish. The room, it's turning. Does anyone else see this? I think I think there was something in there. I think I'm very ill."
Might be the water or something. You should probably stick to Tej. Might be your best bet. Yeah, or maybe there's a demon round here. Yeah, it's spinning the whole tavern. You just best be careful and be on your guard, young lady.
And she would look around in fear, and she would say, "You don't think it's because of what I did, do you?"
No,
here?
no, not at all, not at all. As a matter of fact, it was actually probably the Beatles, but don't tell anyone, or else they'll never sell.
She said, we knew there was something wrong with those Beatles. We knew. And she...
Yes, it's time for you to turn in. Let me help you to your room. And the whole time I'm kind of glaring over at Vale, like, just kind of shaking my head, like, why'd you do that to her? But a little smirk too, because it's kind of funny.
So you all find yourself in comfortable rooms that are functionally very much like bungalows. You have your choice of beds, and there's even hammocks. There's mosquito netting set up. Soft light from outside filters in. It's warm, but a cool night breeze comes in, carrying with it the scent of the sea. And soon you're able to sleep the rest of the night away. Gunslinger Cole, if you weren't already healed up, you find that the rest does you good. And you feel much better upon awakening. As you awaken, your rooms have little more than wash basins and sleeping quarters. So if you wish to get any breakfast or meet up with everybody, you would have to find your way back down to the main tavern area.
Cole
would go.
Yeah, Cole would also go. She'd I imagine she would sit with Ubo, and she'd have like a whole bunch of books and scrolls and everything, and she just starts putting on the table and opening as she's kind of eating I don't know, dinosaur egg. What the fuck they serve in this tavern?
Yeah, actually a variety of dinosaur eggs in different sizes, very rich. In some cases, a single dinosaur egg, supplemented with a few vegetables. Basically, a dinosaur egg omelet or scramble or whatever you wish is quite full of nutrients and very rich.
Yep. So I imagine she's eating that, and as she's stuffing her face, she's just spitting out random Chultan facts to Ubo, who I imagine is kind of listening, but he's a turtle, so you can't tell his expression. So she just thinks she's talking to a wall, but she just keeps talking regardless.
How much of your information is primary source?
I can roll a D100 for that if you would like, because I have no idea.
Yeah, roll me a D100. Let's just see what comes up.
So it is 77%.
Okay.
Whatever that means in this.
Well, what that means is that at certain times I may make you make a roll. There's a 25% chance that certain bits of information may be completely inaccurate.
I love it.
And I think
that's a mechanic we just made up.
I would certainly be eating and listening, but my eyes would kind of be fixed on wherever the rooms are, just basically waiting for her to come out, just make sure that everything's good.
Vale, Berlinia, are you earlier risers like these two, or will you come down later?
No, I'd wake up I'd wake up right at as soon as the sun just kind of like peeks through the window. With the dawn, I'll be up and I'll be feeling refreshed.
Berlinia, she'd be up early, but it would be a while before she came out. Yeah, and after walking down the hall, she'd kind of sit down, very, very just quietly nod to everyone as a hello, and take one look at the egg and just kind of push it away and just kind of shake her head.
Would we have Tej at the table too, Jake? Or just the eggs?
There would be fruit juices.
Okay. Then I would probably grab a glass of that and just kind of push it over towards her. And I would say, you must drink. You must stay hydrated, or how you feel will only get worse, especially in this heat. Please. And he would just kind of motion for her to sit down with them.
And about that point, Vale, you feel a firm pair of hands grip your shoulders in a friendly way, with kind of a pat on the shoulder, and then just that kind of friendly squeeze of somebody that's standing behind you, and maybe they're just a bit too familiar, as you hear, "Ah, yes, well, I see you've survived your first night in Port Nyanzaru. And, oh, well, excuse me, ma'am. I do not believe we've had the pleasure of making acquaintance. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Volothamp Volo Gadam."
Would Cole, being an archaeologist, recognize Volo like that? Like, would he be like a celebrity to her, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think you of everybody would have definitely come across his name, and you would probably even be aware of the fact that he has recently written a book.
So, see, like, the camera, like, focuses on her face, and she looks up, like, angry, like, who is talking to me when I'm trying to learn this stuff real quick? And she sees him, and her eyes go wide, her mouth opens, and the fork drops out onto the table, and she jumps up, and her tail is actually wagging behind her, and she leans towards us, "This can't be. No. Volo? The Volo? The writer of Volo's Monsters Guide Volo? That Volo?"
"I dare say the one and only."
And she looks to her three companions. She says, "And you met him and didn't tell me?"
Yes, we must have forgotten.
"Oh, I've become quite acquainted with your friends over dinner last night. I am most disappointed that you weren't there, but I see we have rectified that with our meeting just now."
"Oh, tomorrow we have. Do you have a copy of your guide with you?"
"Why, for that very reason, I am here in Port Nyanzaru. I am, of course, attempting to get the merchant princes of Port Nyanzaru to distribute my book to their clientele, and so, of course, I have copies with me for a mere 50 gold pieces. A beautifully hard-bound copy can be yours, and for no extra charge, a personalized autograph, my dear."
So the three of you guys would literally see that Cole is just being sucked into the sales pitch head first, right? It's not even, there's no save she can make against it. She's done. So she reaches into the pouch of gold that's been given to her by Sindra, and she quickly counts out 50 pieces, right? And she kind of slides the pile over the Volo unless someone tries to stop her.
And Volo's already pulling out of a a side pouch, a little like messenger bag. He's pulling one of what you can see is a few copies of this black leather bound. And as he does, and you're counting out your pieces, his eyes watching your gold pieces, he says, all of the illustrations within and on this beautiful embossed cover are, of course, by yours truly. And you can trust in this information to be your handy guide through the jungles of Chult and elsewhere in the realms. And if nobody else makes move to stop, what he'll do is he hands the book to you, holding it over top of your coins. And when you take the book, your coins are gone.
She notices the magic trick, and she smiles to herself, used to such parlor tricks, because she does the same thing. And she quickly flips the book back around, produces a quill and ink out of nowhere, and holds it both forward for him to sign it.
And how should I make this out?
Cole, please. Just Cole. Kohl.
Of course. And he takes the quill and dips it in the ink, and you see him kind of look thoughtfully for a moment, and then he begins to write for much longer than should be necessary. And taking up most of the page is his signature, and he's signed it as Volothamp, and in a big V, Volo, Gadarm, and it just kind of trails and comes back and zips under a few times. And the inscription above, when he hands it back to you, says, to the most daring and bold Cole.
You guys have no idea how much this book is going to save our ass when we get into that jungle. And she just sits down content and starts reading through it, having forgotten Volo was even here.
And for all intents and purposes, you now possess a copy of Volo's Guide to Monsters. What this means mechanically is that whenever you wish, you can consult Volo's Guide to Monsters for particular bits of information, but don't expect game statistics. It's going to be more like lore, husbandry, and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And with that, Ubo would say to Volo, you have come again. You have peddled your wares, and you have been successful. There is nothing else for you here.
But you are mistaken, my total friend. If you do recall, last night I told you that it would be my honor to introduce you to any one of the many guides of Port Nyanzaru. But,
yes.
Of course.
I forgot.
I can leave you to your own devices if you wish.
No. We have paid you well. Perhaps...
Forgive me if I step upon your ample toes, my friend.
I would look at Vale, and I would say, guides, do you remember them? I'm a little fuzzy after all the Tej. I don't recall their names. Did we choose which one we would use? Just kind of looking at my companions. I don't recall.
No, we didn't choose one in particular, but Berlinia, there was that young lady that was first pointed out by our friend Volo here. Seemed...
yes.
Yeah, well, that one.
Salida.
That's right.
She was in the corner, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, she was in the corner for a moment, and then Volo here points her out, and all of a sudden she was right beside him. That was quite a fancy trick she did.
Yes, that is quite the nature of our friend Salida. She's a very capable guide, to be sure.
Well, she certainly seemed convincing. And Ubo's just in his mind remembering where she took her finger and kind of went up his shell, and she kind of walked away, and he just kind of gets a little chill.
Well, Salida is but one of a few choices. I can introduce you to I can introduce you to at least nearly a half a dozen more here in Port Nyanzaru. And of course, if you wish, as I said, there are a couple more in Fort Beluarian, though I do not know them as well. What are you looking for in a guide, if I may ask? Are you looking for somebody that you can pay an upfront fee to? Or perhaps a per diem? Somebody that has a quest of their own that they may seek your help in? Or would you prefer to work with someone who is willing to take a portion of any treasures that you find in lieu of upfront payment?
If we pay up front, we have no way of knowing that they'll stay.
Nearly all of the guides here in Port Nyanzaru are under the purview of the merchant prince Jabal, and he stands by his guides. You could say they are guaranteed. None of them have ever, as far as I know, abandoned their charges. If you stray outside to the sort of black market, as they say, well, then you take your chances, believe me.
I think Ubo would look at everybody. What do you think?
So, and Cole wipes her mouth free of some of the egg and fruit juice, and she leans forward and she says, I haven't met this Salida. I haven't met any guys, to be honest. Now, black market, I'm not feeling it. The coin, I don't need the coin for that. But if you could introduce us to a few more, Mr. Volo, preferably one at a time or all at once if it conveniences you, so we could talk to them just briefly and briskly, I think that would help us all make a more informed obsession. And if everyone else has already seen too many guys, well, we can just flip a coin and call it a day. My gods will guide me regardless.
Pardon me. And you hear from a few feet away, I cannot help but hear that you are looking for guides, yes? The very best that Port Nyanzaru has to offer. Volo, my friend, I trust you are not telling them bad things about river mist and flask of wine, yes? And you would see Volo actually kind of roll his eyes. And then he leans over, since he's still kind of standing right by you, Vale. He whispers to you, watch these two. They are not Jobal's. You whisper, Volo, but we hear your words just the same. And then this feline figure, a tabaxi, steps closer and says, you would be wise to beware Jobal and his no-good flunkies. That merchant prince is not as trustworthy as a sack of snakes, as are most of his guides. If you choose us, we would never lead you astray. River and Flask are up to the task. That's our motto.
I see what you did there. Right,
Yes.
lead you astray. Astray because you're cats. Yeah, no, I see what you did there. That was very clever. Volo, can we just bring Salida in? I'm sure you're all very nice, but unfortunately it's really hard to find enough milk or enough cream and possibly enough tuna to feed the lot of you the entire time.
A second cat figure standing behind the first one
Slits my throat, and I need a new character.
You see this cat figure, eyes glowing yellow, in just captured reflective light in the shadow, just hisses at you. And the other one says, now, flask of wine.
With that, Ubo would actually stand up and get very close to Vale and just kind of, as I'm sure he's larger than Val is, just kind of trying to cast a shadow, like you mess with him, you mess with me.
And then the first one that was speaking turns to Volo and says, "Again, your words are taking food from River and Flask's mouths. We will not forget this." And they quickly disappear. "Yes, as I said, you'll have to watch out for those that are not on Jabol's payroll, as it were. That was River Mist and Flask of Wine."
What?
Well, maybe if one of us could cast dancing lights, we could keep him entertained for hours. Just follow the dancing light, follow the dancing light.
What was that, Cole?
I want to know what Brill's reaction to this was.
She would just be like sitting there, just like looking very perplexed at these tabaxi, almost intrigued. But then as soon as things kind of went south and they started hissing, she just have this like look of fear, and then kind of mutter, "It's like, oh, I'm not sure that I would want them as a guide. They didn't seem very, very nice."
Me and the Azimar here in agreement. And then Nicole moves her hand, and you see the black-faced coin again. Definitely not the Tabaxi. Not now, not ever.
Nice.
I think Salida is the one to go with. I mean, she's walking death, and you don't even hear her come up. Matter of fact, she's right behind you as we speak. You don't even know it, Cole.
She flips the coin again, and for the first time since you guys seen her do this, it comes up on the golden side. And she shrugs her shoulders and she says, "Tamora says it's lucky to pick her, so call her up. Let's meet her."
Would you desire to meet with any of the other guides?
No. Bring us to Salida, or bring her here. We have much to discuss.
And Volo would excuse himself, and he would actually head over to that same corner where Salida had positioned herself the night before. And she would emerge from the shadows again. And as she comes over, for those that may not remember, but also for Cole, who is meeting this figure for the first time, you see a Chultan woman who is athletic looking. She's short, but she looks very capable in terms of being able to handle herself. And as she walks up to your table, she says, "Volo here tells me that you are making the right choice today. That you wish to hire Salida to be your guide through the jungles of Chult, yes. Is this true?"
I think we would all just nod.
As I have told you, I have led many expeditions through the jungles, and I am the best of all the guides.
Yes, you made this. You made that very clear yesterday. Please remind us, what is your fee?
I require 5 gold pieces per day. That is the going rate. But I will not charge you in advance. You can pay me each day.
What do Cole? You say your God favors this guide, yes?
Came up lucky this time, so I would say so.
Berlinia, what does yours say about this guide?
My prayers this morning have proved that she has a role to play in our journey. I am not sure to what end, however.
Endel, you are probably the most, well, maybe just the most. What say you?
It would be an honor to share the road with you. I'm talking right to Salida. I can only hope that we may find pleasant nights and days that are not too hot on our way.
Then we are agreed. You shall guide the four of us. We agree to your terms. Now, we must all decide where we are headed.
And how we're paying. We have a lot of gold, but we also need to make sure we keep track of our funds not to go in the red, everybody. Don't forget that. No expedition funds itself.
Yeah, don't spend 50 gold on any strange books or anything like that.
That book will keep us alive. Trust me. Now, as I was saying before Ubo wanted to get smart over here, we need to figure out how we're paying for her and how we're going to pay for the supplies we need. Because if these books tell us anything, then we're going to need certain things if we're going to go into Chult. That's also what I was asking about yesterday. What do these people on expeditions take with them?
Perhaps our guide can help.
Exactly.
Perhaps if you listen for a moment instead of speaking, you might learn.
Ubo, you speak a lot too. But you usually speak in confusing proverbs and whatnot, so I guess we're even on that. But anyway, Salida, advice on what we should be buying for Chult.
If you intend to travel to this house, you will require your first trip to be to Fort Beluarian, where you will need to spend 50 gold pieces on a charter of exploration. That is your first and heaviest expense at the moment. There is the matter of the 5 gold pieces per day, and depending on how long you wish to employ me, that is going to add up. However, with me as your guide, it is highly likely you shall find wealth within the jungles that will enable you to continue to pay me. But prior to that, as you can no doubt tell, the areas of Chult are hot. Always hot. Always humid. And so your need for water has greatly increased. You will need to consume 2 gallons of water per day during all the hours you are awake. Now, it is very impractical to carry more than a day's worth of water each day. You will need the means to boil water each day or to collect water. I recommend purchasing water containers enough for each of you, and perhaps a few extra. Rain catchers, for it always rains in Chult. And as if on cue, though the sun is still shining, a gentle shower starts to happen just outside. I would also advise insect repellent.
And how much would we need to purchase all of these things? And perhaps you could go get them for us, as you would know where to go.
Where exactly is it you wish to go first? Do you wish to go to the fort and secure your charter? Or will you be foregoing that?
I think getting a charter would be the wisest thing.
Can you tell me more about the charter, Salida?
The Flaming Fist operates out of Fort Beluarian, and they fly the flag of Baldur's Gate. They lay claim to the majority of Chult. And if you are stopped by agents of the Flaming Fist and you do not have your papers, it is highly likely that they will extract payment from you in the form of a ransom from your, or shares from any treasures you may have secured, and barring that, your lives. Having the charter is almost a guarantee that the Flaming Fist will not molest you.
And does the charter cost anything? Is it a rolling payment, a subscription?
It is a one-time fee of 50 gold pieces, and that is considered a down payment for a 10% share in all treasures that you secure on your expeditions.
I'm going to take it that Little Miss Priestess over here is going to want to go the more law-abiding route and get the charter.
Belinia would glare at Cole and just... I would like the way that doesn't get us in trouble and killed, or something bad. Yes, I think that would be the best way.
I'm with Berlini on this one. There's probably enough things out in the jungle that want to kill us. Raising the ire of some group that demands that we pay to dig up and find things out in the jungle. We just have to pay for it. Well, it's one complication off of our backs. Sorry, Ubo.
I can drink from that stream.
It is not to say that there is not a time for the rules to be broken. But at the very least, we can start this expedition right and doing right. And if rules need to be broken later, that can be decided then. But for now, let's follow the rules.
Catching the undercurrent of what Ubo is saying, she smiles and looks at Salida and she says, well, charter it is then.
Well, then you can expect 50 gold pieces for the charter. If you are expecting to travel in the jungles, I highly recommend the insect repellent. You can get it in a incense or in a lotion or salve. A couple gold pieces will cover enough for all of you for several days worth. You will, of course, need to pay the fee to the captain of the ship if you wish to book passage north to Fort Beluarian. This is the most advisable way if you do not wish to spend 5 to 10 days in the jungle.
And how much to get the ship?
So the ship is going to cost you 10 gold pieces. Hold on a second. Yeah, the ship will cost you 10 gold pieces. But Aremag will demand more. And she kind of looks at all of you expectantly, seeing if anybody recognizes the name Aremag. I want everybody to roll a history or insight or whatever, and I want Ubo to do so with advantage.
Unnatural 20.
I also got an unnatural 20.
I got a 19.
Like 11.
So Vale just has this kind of dopey, innocent look of Aremag. I've not heard of Aremag. But the rest of you all It's as if you were just told Peter Pan will expect payment. You have heard the legend of a behemoth of a dragon turtle that resides somewhere in one of the bays. And that this dragon turtle does not need to be encountered with violence. He prefers tributes in the form of gold, jewels, and treasures. And when he is satisfied, he will grant you passage.
That's absolutely where Ubo wants to go. He thinks perhaps with his ties to his, for lack of a better phrase, a deity, that he may be able to use his faith to get them through versus bartering.
I'm not feeling the whole dragon turtle god barter thing, everybody.
And you would rather go through the jungle
Yes.
to countless other problems.
I want to dip my toes into the jungle with you guys with me on this small expedition to the fort, so that way we can get a taste of what it will be like when we go deeper into the jungle to do the job we were originally hired for.
But would it not be better to save our strengths?
We're saving our
Not
strengths.
overexert ourselves?
I would rather test what's out there now than go into it completely unknowing later. Especially with
Test.
a giant mythical turtle god waiting for us in the ocean. And pirates that Volo mentioned. It just gets worse if you go across the ocean.
You are simply scared.
I'm not. If I was scared, I wouldn't be here in the first place, Ubo. Facing down undead, dinosaurs, and what the hell else is in this jungle?
Ubo would just get the smile on his face. He would go. And he would just kind of look to his companions. She's scared.
You afraid of water?
It's like the words I'm saying to you guys are going into one ear, being polymorphed into something else, and shot back to me as arrows for some reason. I'm telling you, all of you, Vale, Bryn, and Ubo, we need to go into this jungle sooner rather than later on a safer, smaller trip to make sure our supplies, our strategies, and our expectations are correct. Instead of going across the coastline, it's dumb. It's dumb to do that. We weaken ourselves.
2 days on the
All
ship.
right. Yeah, 2 days versus 5 out in the jungle. But how about this then? We're going to have to come back here to Port Nyanzaru, yeah? So why not we go through the jungle, right? We'll walk there through the jungle, and then we'll take the ship back. I'm sure we're going to find enough money to be able to go. So let's just do that then. Yeah? Can we compromise?
The half-elf offers a compromise that I could get behind. However, I would recommend you take the ship north and journey back through the jungle if you wish to taste of what the jungle has to offer. For it would be very difficult to secure a ship out of Fort Beluarian. Though here in the harbour there are ships to be had. The jungles between Port Nyanzaru and Fort Beluarian are, to the best of anyone's knowledge, currently free of the undead menace, though there are still plenty of wilderness creatures. Maybe not as large or vicious as you might find further south, but enough to give you a taste to wet your swords or arrows with the blood of something if that is what you crave.
I'm not feeling bloodthirsty. I'm feeling smart. But, Vale, I'll take Salita's compromise, and we'll take the boat there and the jungle back. That's my vote.
Right. There you go. I
Seems very
agree.
fair.
Perfect.
As you wish.
Let's go meet your god. Can't believe I never thought I was ever going to say that.
I doubt.
Oh,
I
go
doubt
ahead.
that. I doubt that we would meet. What was his name? Sorry, I forgot. Niwa. I doubt we would meet Niwa, but certainly any dragon turtle would have many things to teach us. Trust me. This is not folly. This is the right way.
So at this point, would you send Salida out to gather supplies for you?
Yep.
I would go with her,
Yeah.
not to roleplay anything, just to go with her to watch, basically, and to learn the city.
So over the course of the next little bit, she tells you to just hang tight, and I will tell you guys post game how much gold to deduct overall. But she's going to, with the help of Cole, you will get enough containers to have water for each of you, to have a day's worth of water rations to fill your skins from. Insect repellents, the rain catchers, all that stuff. It's going to end up being a few gold. You'll want to make sure you still have your gold for your charter. And, of course, she does demand her first day's payment first thing in the morning, is when she wishes to be paid. And then when you get back to Port Nyanzaru, Cole, she says, she kind of takes you by a place that sells canoes that are sturdy and large enough for your entire party, even with Ubo, that can be secured for 50 gold pieces for purchase. And they make for much quicker travel up rivers and streams. So just keep that in mind.
Jake, I got a question.
Yeah.
How much gold was in each of those bags that we got from the lady?
I'm drawing a blank on her name. Sylvain. Sindra Sylvain gave you each 50 gold pieces on top of whatever gold you have. Cole has spent that entire 50 gold pieces on Volo's Guide to Monsters.
Thank God my background gave me 25 gold to supplement it.
So, yeah, you guys will have to get together to figure out what your combined wealth is, and however... I leave wealth management entirely up to you. So you guys are responsible when I tell you amounts and things like that. There are times where I may follow up after game and just say, hey, here's a summary of what you guys got. But I'm not going to track your inventory. So after about an hour, and Cole, you see as she just kind of, Salida takes you from booth to booth. She knows exactly which merchants to see. The main thing that you learn is that different merchant princes control different types of goods, and that you can only get those types of goods from those specific merchant princes. Just like you learned that Wakanga Otamu deals in magic items and even sells a few minor healing potions and scrolls and things like that. He is the only one you can get those items from. So that's the main thing that you learn. When she returns, she brings you all from the Red Bazaar. She leads you to the harbor and down to the docks. And she looks around, and then she's looking for a specific ship. And then she points to a 60-foot sloop, and she says, that's the one you want. He is almost exclusively here, chartering, taking adventurers around. I was hoping he would be here. It has been a while since any adventurers of any note have been through here. That is the Brazen Pegasus. He is a good ship. And she's telling you all this as she walks down and introduces you. She kind of takes you to the ship where the first thing you see is this just hulking, beefy human man with a dark gray beard that crawls up his face to just under his eyes, and it just seems to go off in all directions. He is shirtless. He wears otherwise wears like the cuffed boots and his linen pants with a sword buckled around his belt and his hair tied back, and he just glares down at Salida. And she exchanges a few words with him, and then he just gives a quick, sharp whistle. And you see this very small figure come up from behind him, and she actually steps up on the railing a bit. And it is a female rock gnome wearing the uniform of a ship's captain. And she looks down.
So, you wish to book passage on the Brazen Pegasus, aye? Where is it you want to be going?
I think we would look to the guide to do most of the talking here.
And
I would assume.
Salida says, "You can knock off the affectation, Otome."
Very well.
Where do you want to take them? And she kind of lets loose of the sounding quite like the stereotypical pirate. And she explains that you want to travel up to Fort Beluarian, and she just says, Aremag. Aye, they know. And you're prepared to pay the tribute? As she looks at all of you.
How much is it?
That is for Aremag to decide.
Of course it is.
And he changes his mind every time.
Of course he does.
Passage will cost you 10 gold pieces per day. We'll be to the fort in less than 2.
We accept your terms. Have you a place for us to stay?
Well, the entire boat is open to you to stay. And you can see that it's mostly a open deck ship. It's not huge, but it's definitely bigger than anything you've probably been on. And she just says, well, we can be underway in a half hour. Bring yourself on board, and we'll make her ready. And Salida begins helping to gather up your supplies and load them up on the ship. In the meantime, your water that she secured for you is they're not just the water jugs. She's actually secured clean drinking water for you, enough for a full day. And within a half an hour, Ortome Swift and Dark is the name of the captain. And her and her first mate, who you learn, the large hulking human, his name is Grig. And there's a crew of about a half a dozen or so, or of a half a dozen male and female folks that are tending to the sails and making her ready to go. And within a half an hour, you are underway, sailing through the Bay of Chult.
And I think the whole time, Ubo would be standing at the bow, just kind of looking at the horizon, just looking at the sea, hoping to get a glimpse of what he's been told about.
And Salida explains to you that the ship will have to head up north out of the bay, and then, or out of the port, and then you'll round into the bay proper, where you'll see a couple of peninsulas, and that the fort is inland, maybe a day's journey on foot or less. But it's around the time you get between these two peninsulas that you should expect to encounter Aremag. Aremag, not Aremag. It takes about half the day of smooth sailing. There's intermittent rains that seem less as you're out to sea. The winds are favorable. The sailors are skilled. In the hot sun, Salida shows you how you can rig up tarps along the edges so you can seek shelter from the sun. And it's getting on to be about late in the afternoon. The sun is well into its descent, but it's not quite evening yet. So probably what we would call, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And a male halfling of the crew has been has taken to watch atop. They don't even really have a crow's nest per se, but he's kind of perched up at the top of the mast. And you just hear suddenly called out, "Aremag! Off the off the bow! Starboard!" And as you look, Ubo, are you still at the front of the boat this whole time?
Absolutely.
And anybody else that's there, otherwise you'd have to come up and see this, but the commotion of the deck may have alerted you. But Ubo, you would definitely see this first and foremost. As at first you see nothing. Nothing out of the ordinary. And then off the starboard bow, the sea begins to roil and churn. And from this central location, crashing against other waves, waves begin to crash against the front of the ship, casting over the bow and over the sides. And you see what looks like these jagged, sawtooth peaks of hills and rocky crags rising as if you're watching an island rise up out of the water. The sea has become numerous waterfalls crashing over the sides of this back down to the sea, some crashing down onto the front of the ship. The ship is being tossed to and fro, but the crew has already secured the sails and is maintaining as best they can. And then suddenly, from in front of you, is a massive blast of steam from two huge nostrils. And then that's when you see this immense beak and a gigantic eye that is milky white. The eye alone is easily twice the size of you, Ubo. And as the water starts to calm down, you see sharks swimming all around, their fins cutting through the water, all around the ship and all around Aremag, the dragon turtle. And the first thing you hear, booming and echoing across the water. Lothirok, Kelthial, Dorthiantiar. Does anybody here speak Draconic?
Just common and really bad common.
I got Aquan, but I don't have Draconic.
And as the dragon turtle looks across the ship, the milky eye seems to be staring blindly at you, Ubo. And then the head shifts, and you see a big watery orb focus in on you. And then you hear this kind of watery and it's gurgles and bubbles, and you recognize it as the Aquan speech. As Aremag says, "You shall go no further until you pay tribute to Aremag the Great and Terrible." And unless anybody else speaks Aquan, you're the only one that understands the turtle.
And I think Ubo would take a deep breath and would say, "You are truly magnificent." And again, no one would be understanding what I'm saying, obviously, have all those bubbles and gurgles in it. But I think he would say, "What is required for safe passage?"
Aremag demands your tribute. Treasures and coins, jewels and gems. Put them into a sack and throw them into my sea. And at this point, for everybody else, Captain Ordame Swift and Dark is translating for the others because she too has learned Aquan.
And Ubo would say, "You speak of treasures. You speak of tribute. I have spent my life, for as long as I can remember, paying tribute to Niwa. Even you are not as great as she. I will happily give you all that I have. But we have very little in what you ask. Perhaps there is something that I or we may do for you that would be fitting for a follower of Niwa and his companions. Perhaps we could work out a deal."
What are the rest of you doing while he is having this conversation that you cannot understand? A couple of the crew have already placed a burlap sack at your feet, and the captain just says, "It's your passage. At your tribute. I suggest you start filling the sack."
I think Berlinia would be just like looking around very confused and just, what do you think this thing would want? And she's kind of like looking through her bag, and she's lifting out things like incense and like candles and stuff like that. Like a book.
One of the
she kind of shakes her head, puts the book back.
Being mugged by a large water creature.
One of the crew kind of nudges Berlinia and just says, "Gold and jewels and shiny things. He may look like a giant turtle, but he's a dragon turtle, and they like their treasure hoards."
But what does he have need? He's all the way in the middle of the sea. Why does he need coin and jewels for? What is there for him to purchase?
Welcome to life outside the temple, Bryn, where the rules don't matter anymore and everything wants your money.
And Jake, with that, I want to just kind of reach down to my belt and pull that large shell that I have there, that conch shell. I would assume that this dragon turtle would know what this is, that this is a symbol of that god, of my faith, of what the monks of that order carry. Would it hold any weight if I just kind of held it, up for him?
Combined with your words and showing this symbol, give me a charisma persuasion check.
Okay, sorry.
And I will let you do so with advantage, showing the conch shell.
Thank God, because that was a 3. Natural 1. So I got it.
In
Basically,
Aquin, Aremag first exhales just a small burst of steam and says, I was already thousands of years old when you were still coming out of your shell on the beach. Your god had not yet been invented when I was already ancient. Take whatever faith and solace you will within your symbols, but give me my tribute.
With this, Ubo would look back at his companions, visibly afraid, and just kind of bow out to whatever they're doing. No idea what to do next. His one plan that he never thought would fail just failed.
No proverbs for this, huh, Ubo? And as she says that, Cole is actually counting out bullets onto the ground in front of her. She doesn't think that this dragon turtle's ever actually seen magical bullets before, and they're extremely shiny. So she's passing these off as treasure, and she's counted out 40 so far. And she's just like piling up and then putting into the bag.
So these are magical bullets.
Yes.
And you put
bullet balls, technically. Yeah, for my arcane magazine feature, the Artificer. Now she knows that she's technically conning the dragon turtle, so he may see through the con, but she's hoping he takes the shiny bullets and goes on with his life.
Make a charisma persuasion check.
Spicy times. Let's get this D20 out. So cool. Okay, I have no pluses to this. That is a flat 15. I won't spend my inspiration on it. I'll keep my inspiration for now.
There is no negative reaction, though no discernible appreciative reaction from you adding these 40 bullets to the sack.
She says a silent prayer to Mora that this works out, and she just keeps counting bullets in. Anybody
else adding to the sack?
Burton would kind of lean over to Vale and just say, what are you putting in?
But I don't know. I mean, I've always believed in luck, mostly because I never had any myself. So I was going to put in 10 gold at me lucky rabbit's foot. It always brought me luck. Who knows? Maybe it might give us luck just one last time before I pass it on to something else. So I'll throw 10 gold into the sack and get rid of my lucky rabbit's foot, which has absolutely no bearing on the collection of twigs that have been tied up with leather.
Right.
It's around my my neck.
How many total bullets have you added into the sack?
I put in 40 so far because I made 40 more in the long rest. So.
All right, Berlinia, what are you adding, if anything?
Berlinia would just kind of look around nervously, and she would kind of throw in 10 gold pieces, just like Vale, and she would put in some of her church's candles that they would light in prayer. It's just something from home. She's like, I don't know. It's not shiny, but I don't know.
And realizing that I can't talk us out of this, I think Ubo would go into a pack and he would pull out this very ornately designed scroll case. Has all of his prayers, all of his notes from his studies, everything all kind of jammed in there, and it's going to have all the symbols, probably some in Aquan, some in Draconic, just kind of written around. And you can see as it spins, it's probably not very expensive, but it definitely has little pieces of sea glass and shells and stuff like that, things that are very ornate. I think he would put that in there and just kind of mutter under his breath, if I ever needed prayers, it's now. And I think he would kind of put it in there, and if no one else had anything else, he would kind of tie it up and toss it in, as long as there was nothing else to add.
And as you tie it up and heave it into the ocean, Aremag exhales a big gust of steam across the deck. I need everybody to make a dexterity saving throw or strength.
17.
13.
I use my inspiration, so I have a 22.
What'd you get, Vale?
15.
All of you managed to grip hold of something as this blast of hot, steamy air goes cascading across, ripping tarps, and you kind of maybe in a fleeting moment realize why the crew secured all the sails when Aremag showed up. I need everyone to make a perception roll at disadvantage.
Five.
Same.
Cole?
Got a 2.
2.
Berlinia, nobody notices that as the steam catches your flowing robes, you are lifted off the deck and blown overboard into the ocean. As you crash into the water and quickly find your way to the surface, you can't help but notice that there are half a dozen fins cutting the surface of the water, circling around you and growing closer. What are you going to do?
I think one thing is Berlinia, I don't think would maybe necessarily know how to swim, and if she did, it wouldn't be very strongly. So she would be quickly losing strength, losing ability. and I'm stalling while I'm looking for something.
Give me a athletics check.
Okay. That is a 4.
Drake, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to jump in after.
You haven't noticed that she's gone.
Uh-oh. Well,
No,
when I do, I want to jump in.
You haven't yet noticed that she's gone.
You could try screaming, perhaps.
Yeah, I think she would try screaming, but I think that maybe water would be getting into her mouth. And so you see just like a hand shoot up, and immediately on the... Like... I think she would... Like a huge symbol would kind of appear in the air. Just... like almost like an arrow pointing down to where she is, and she would be screaming, and meanwhile like water just flowing into her mouth, and her vestments are being dragged down. And
what is this arrow?
I cast prestidigitation. Oh, no, never mind. I don't think I can... Here, never mind. No, a shower of sparks. There we go. Not an arrow. A shower of sparks comes, like, puffing up, kind of like fireworks.
Yeah, I will allow that. I was just curious what you were casting. I knew you were probably casting something. But with what was your athletics check? It was pretty low.
Yeah, it was a 4.
So, yeah, so you are struggling in the water. And you kind of paddle frantically, and you're not really getting anywhere. Water is getting in your mouth, the salt water, and you quickly are able to just get the words and the motion out and shoot this shower of sparks up into the air. At this point, everybody's kind of getting their feet under them. Excuse me. And Aremag is already descending back into the sea. Apparently the tribute having been sufficient. And that's when you guys see the shower of sparks off of the toward the rear of the ship, off the side. So,
okay. Seeing this and realizing she's gone, I don't think I would wait. I would jump in. I would just dive right in next to her, try to keep her above water.
Cole's head swivels almost instantly hearing the scream, and she sees the sparks, and she realizes what happens almost instantly as well. She dives forward, and when she does, she grabs this rope off the deck, and she throws one end of it to Vale, and she shouts to Vale to catch that end of the rope. And then she goes to the edge of the railing, and she throws the other end after Ubo, screaming at him, "Grab the rope and tie it to her." Because Vale's stronger than her, he can secure the rope better, is what she's thinking.
And Ubo, as you jump in the water, she's about 15 feet away from you, but I believe you have a swimming speed.
Yeah, 30 feet.
And swimming is not really a problem for you. So you're able to cut through the water, though you do notice that the sharks are rapidly circling closer and closer.
Yeah, I'm not paying any attention to the sharks. I'm just trying to get her safe.
And I would say between the rope and your ability to handle yourself in the water and your strength, you have no problem getting her. And through teamwork, you are able to pull Berlinia back to the surface. And the crew actually throws some netting over the side that helps you to clamber up the side of the ship. And eventually you find yourself back on deck. Berlinia, you are sputtering and spitting up salt water. You are soaked. How has this ordeal affected you?
I think that Berlinia would be just trying to catch her breath. And as soon as she does that, she just kind of look around wildly for her book, for her kind of book that she had been keeping with her. And I think that she would find that it probably isn't there. And she would just kind of be looking around frantically for it. Did you see the book? Did I have it with me when I went in, or was it here?
Did anyone see it?
Cole hears the question, but just how like the words being said to her or from her to you guys earlier, going in one ear and out the other, her words go in one of Cole's ears and out the other. And she takes a dagger and she walks up to you, Bern, and she begins to literally just cut away at your vestments, ignoring everything else you're saying. And she starts cutting away at this wet, waterlogged, you-killing cloth that you're wearing right now.
And like through like breaths and like panting, she would begin to scream at you. Like, no, don't. Those are...
Shut up.
No! And she would just begin to fight you, like trying to get you to not cut these vestments.
Cole would just straight code cock punch her in the face.
Right, I would do my best to get between them before when I saw him raise his fist. Ubo would absolutely try to get between them.
Listen.
No, let's see if I did first.
Okay.
Because it's different if I didn't.
So
am I making like a...
What are you doing?
How you want to roll it, Drake?
But, okay, so Marquise is cutting her stuff off, yelling at her. She's yelling at him. She's screaming no, blah, blah, blah. I'm hearing this, and I'm trying to rush over as I see him basically bring his fist back to stand in between and either make him hit me or my shell or something and get between them.
We can do melee attack versus acrobatics check, or athletics. Okay. What you think about that? Is that okay, Jake?
I was going to say, or I could DM this.
Well, or you can DM it if you're like, it is your channel, you know? If you would like.
I like that I can sit back and let my players take control to a certain extent, Marquise. I'm thinking we'll do an attack roll versus acrobatics.
Oh, okay. That's a great idea, Jake. I love it.
Can I do athletics, Jake?
Ooh, I actually rolled well for once.
Jake?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I have a 20 unmodified.
I got a 19.
Bet! Ooh, I love it.
So you cold cock her ass, I'm sure. I mean, tell us what happens.
Cole punches her in the face, and as she does so, she screams at her, "I'm doing my best to save your no-good ridden life, you naive bitch. Now fucking listen to me. Your clothes will get you killed. This isn't the temple anymore. You can't be running around dressed like a priest on a fucking ship deck with dragon turtles, and who knows what the fuck else is out here. Now take off that silly bullshit and put something on that will let you live before you get us all killed with your stupidity."
Can I let go of this rope yet?
Yes, Val, you can let go of the rope.
Right, thank you. I dropped the rope.
I think that Berlinia would just look at you with like blood probably starting to come down her nose, and all you see are like these tears begin to well up in her eyes. And she just wants to like push you off and just run away somewhere.
I think I would. I think I would try to push Cole away from her just as hard as I could, even though he got the punch in. Just try to separate the two. Can I roll for that, Jake? Or no?
Cole would let herself be pushed back.
Okay.
So when she's pushed back, she takes a dagger and she kind of just like throws it onto the deck, and she looks at you, Bryn, and her eyes narrow, and she says, "If you want to actually find something to wear that won't put your and my life in danger, come to my cabin when you're done being a brat." And then she turns around and she's gonna walk under deck.
Salida turns to Vale and just says, "Are they always like this?"
I mean, for as long as I've known them, yeah. Which, I mean, has been all of, like, 3 days, 2 days? No, maybe even 2. Maybe even 1.
I should have asked for 30 days up front.
Probably. But look, on the bright note, it gets you out of the city, back to nature, seeing all the sights. And mind you, I guess you've already seen the sights before. Probably really don't want to be here. At least the money's good, yeah? 5 gold a day.
As long as you don't kill each other first.
Well, look, I mean, now this might sound cynical, but if one of us dies, we could just divvy up their possessions. You might get a cut. Just saying. I mean, if I die, I tell you what, if I die, you could have one of me most treasured possessions. How's that sound for you? Huh?
She kind of, like, almost literally looks down her nose at you.
What? Oh, I see. I'm not some feathered, pompous lord with seven surnames, Lord Alphabet or nothing. No, I get it. But, some things are more powerful than money and wealth and money, because it's sort of same, really. Magic.
Well, if you figure out what is more powerful than the coin, you be sure to let me know. In the meantime, if you stick with me, you will earn more of that wealth. And I would wager it would be in your best interest to listen to the Red One. She is full of fire, but she is also full of wisdom.
She also got a big mouth, too. I mean, at first I thought she was to be honest, at first I thought she was a cross between a demon and a gibbering mouther, like maybe two of them got together and got really drunk in the tavern or something, right? And just there we go, they was cold. But, no, to be honest, I mean, she has a lot of plans. Tell you the truth, I just like winging it, waking up in the mornings, like, am I going to live? Am I going to die? Somewhat exciting, but I suppose that everyone wants to live and do all that other boring stuff. Yeah, no, it makes sense, I suppose. I mean, I'll listen to her, but as long as she tries to at least open her ears and listen to the rest of us, I think that would be good as well.
All right, are you guys, what are the, Ubo? What are you doing?
I would be waiting for how she responded to Cole, to how Berlinia responded to Cole with dagger. And I think I would probably pick up the dagger and maybe hand it, grab it by the blade and hand it over to her. And maybe say she has a point. Perhaps you may need a more useful set of clothes. What you're wearing makes you stand out, and as much as I don't want to agree with that, with that woman, I She has a point. Perhaps we can learn something from this one.
She is evil. She has no care for what faith is, what sanctity is. She doesn't care.
You're right. She doesn't care, and she has no faith. But even those without faith, even those that are somehow evil, if used properly, can be very useful. Remember that.
In the meantime, the crew has gotten the ship underway and has begun, or rather continued, the journey. It takes another almost full day before traveling along the coast, before the ship sets close as they can in the bay to a large white sandy beach. And they one of the crew lowers a rowboat and will deliver you and your supplies to the beach and then return back to the ship where they will be on their way. After a day has gone by, has anything settled down between Berlinia and Cole, or are you two still kind of cold to one another?
Depends if Berlinia has come by the cabin yet.
I think that are there rooms?
No. No, you
No.
basically have been given space on the deck of the ship under tarps, which have been resecured, that are basically designated areas. This ship, the captain and the crew have, along with storage area down below, places that they stay, but a couple members of the crew stay up top and maintain watch. So if you're looking for distance, the furthest away you could get would be to go 60 feet away to the opposite end of the ship.
Exactly what Cole would do.
Yeah, I think Berlinia would also do that. Just be at opposite ends. She would probably spend most of her time under the tarp, not coming out, not saying anything to anyone, just kind of sulking, I guess. But I think when she finally does come out, you see that she has, I think maybe cut her vestments. And I think that she would have probably maybe asked the crewmates during the evening whether they had any form of needle and thread or something along those lines.
Yeah, and one of the crew would have given you. I mean, it's not uncommon for them to have to repair their own clothing throughout their travels. So, yeah, you're able to secure some thread and needle, and it's a coarse thread, but it'll work.
Yeah, so I think that she would definitely cut up her vestments so that she still has them on, but she's sewn them in a way that's a little more not as billowy, not like a dress or long sleeves. She has short sleeves now, and maybe she's fashioned some shorts. Something that she still has are the ribbons. These red ribbons kind of crisscross tied all the way up her forearms. And she would just kind of come out after a while.
What's Cole's reaction upon seeing that Berlinia has essentially heeded your advice, though without actually confronting you further.
Soul has lived her life, well, the non-archaeology portion of her life, seeing Azamars and priests and priestesses and the whole shebang basically listen to what she says, ignore it, and then do it anyway, but act like it's their idea. So she rolls her eyes as it happens yet again, and she just continues tinkering on the things that she's tinkering on, making more of her magical bullets and working on other projects, ignoring this arrogant, pompous, naive child.
And as I said, you guys, as this happens, you're loading your equipment into the rowboat, and then you are rowed to the shore, and your gear is unloaded, and the crew member will begin rowing back toward the ship. And you are left on this wide expanse of beach where Salida tells you the fort is inland about another day's journey. There are worn paths, so the travel should go quickly and hopefully uneventfully. But we can stay here and set up camp, or we can travel a little ways into the jungle and set up camp halfway there. I am merely your guide. It is your decision.
Which is safer?
It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And everybody give me a perception check.
2.
16.
14.
16.
Ubo, you're kind of talking to Salida, asking about, which is safer, so you don't really notice anything in particular. The rest of you kind of see just a little bit further up the beach, a little bit closer to where where the trees and the scrub and stuff pushes up against the beach, which is maybe 40, 50 feet away, that there is a rowboat that has a big hole in it. It's overturned and kind of at an angle, and there looks like the oars are being used to kind of prop it up at an angle, like a makeshift shelter. You can see some ragged tarp that's kind of pulled across it. And as you see it, you see first one, then 2 women emerge. And they're wearing what looks like they may have at one time been decent clothing, but they're sun-worn and torn. And they kind of emerge out. One of them's kind of peering, squinting against the sun, and then she turns to her companion and begins to excitedly chatter, and then they start waving. They're like, "Hey! Hello! Oh, thank goodness! People!" And then at this point, Ubo, you would hear the commotion.
I think he would just kind of look very puzzled and kind of look towards the guide for what to do here.
She just looks at you and kind of shrugs. They look like they are perhaps stranded.
If they're stranded, then we must help them.
That is your prerogative.
I agree, Ubo.
And one of the women starts running up to your group, and she appears to be human, fair-skinned, though a bit sunburnt. And you can see that her lips are chapped, and she's squinting against the bright light, and she says, Oh, thank goodness. Our ship crashed against the rocks. Our boat. We were foolish, trying to make it around the horn of the peninsula. And it was getting dark, and we struck the rocks. We were washed ashore, and we have no idea where we are. We lost our water overboard. It's been at least 3 or 4 days. But you are the first we've seen of anybody. Can you help us, please? Have you any water to spare? My sister and I. Just a little water. And perhaps guide us to safety.
Go ahead and make an insight check.
I think right away Berlinia would be like, "Oh yes, of course," and she would like take out a water skin and give them.
Oddly enough, Cole actually does something similar. She's more hesitant with it, but she gives the other sister. Actually, no, she used to give this one. She would give her a water skin as well, so that way she have a water skin for the sister.
All right. So you're giving water skins to them, and they are, at first, almost greedily. That ladybug just landed on my glasses. Sorry. I was like, what is going on? It's a monster. At first, almost greedily, she starts to slurp this water, and then she kind of catches herself and takes small sips of it. And what was your insight check there, Vale?
18.
She seems very sincere in her pleas. What exactly are you trying to see? You cut out there.
Just wanted to see whether or not it's a trap. You know, is definitely going to be something where they, you know.
You get the sense that as you're kind of watching them, as they're Cole and Berlinia are helping with their water skins, giving it to them. You don't know what it is, but something seems off. It just doesn't feel right. And it raises the hackles on the back of your neck. The hairs just stand on end. And you feel like this sixth sense. Like there's something more that you're not seeing. And imagine that scene in Jurassic Park when he's hunting the velociraptors. And then he says, "Clever girl." And you turn and you see rising out of the surf a third woman. Her hair, beautiful hair and clothes hanging as her skin turns from this pink sunburnt skin to this gross mottled blue, and her hair hangs like limp seaweed. And as she rises out of the surf and comes towards you, you see a similar transformation. Berlinia, Ubo, and Cole in the other two sisters, as they kind of step back so that as best they can, the three of these women are surrounding you. But they are no longer damsels in distress. They appear to be three sea hags. And that's where we're going to end.
That's a
Dag
big thing. We seem to be caught in the noose, my friends, and I have no plans for this.
Yeah, you do. Shoot him. You got a gun? Shoot him.
That is true.
So I trust everybody made, I believe Berlinia and Vale were the only two that put actual gold coins in the Aremag's tribute. So deduct those. I'll let you know. In fact, I'm just going to say however you guys want to divvy it up, if you want to do it however much from each of you, but it was about 10 gold pieces. And I'll give you a list of the supplies that Salita was able to secure for you as far as the applications of insect repellent, the rain catcher, all that kind of stuff. I'll put that in the notes, so you'll have that information for next session. Yeah. That was quite eventful.
Yeah, sorry, the one opportunity that I had to do something good, I screwed up. Sorry about that. With advantage, I rolled a 3.
I gave you advantage on a 3, and you rolled a 1.
The one thing that I should be good at, right?
But that's what I love about this, and even to the point where, Berlinia got knocked into the water. You guys make your rolls, and at that point, even I don't know what's going to happen. It comes down to what the dice decide. Yep. So that was a lot of fun. I'll write up the notes for you guys so you have them for the next session, and we will be back here again next Monday night at 8:30 Eastern. I'm going to continue to work on the stream issues, so thank you for everybody who's kind of stuck with it. I know we had at least somebody, because I saw when Cole tore into Berlinia, somebody in the chat was like, damn. So,
well, dude, all that is just, and Mike, I'm sorry, Vale is like my favorite person ever. It's that perfect balance between how, I don't know, how loud Cole can get and how in your face Cole can get. And you're like, oh, never mind. It's just a fabulous balance. Just sitting back watching it.
Can I drop the rope? Can I drop the rope now?
Vale saying in my Lord alphabet is the highlight of the night to me, because that was 10 out of 10 to old Marquise over here.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that everybody has another point of inspiration. In my games, they stack. So I know a couple of you have used them, or at least I know Marquise used his tonight. But that was some outstanding role play. And Berlinia, that's a prime. All of you outstanding role play, but Megan, some great examples of how to play your character true, and when you falling in the water, and struggling rather than just saying, oh, I roll and I'm swimming. All of you guys are doing phenomenal at recognizing character flaws, what your character would do in a situation like that, and I love it. It's fantastic. So, again, thank you everybody for watching Chult of Personality. This is where we meet on Monday nights at 8:30 Eastern for a couple hours of D&D, Tomb of Annihilation. Big thanks to Mike the Piper, Drake the RPG Construct, Marquise the Stereotypical Strider from A Point of Inspiration, and Megan from Dice on Ice on YouTube. And I have been Jake from Mini Terrain Domain. This is mtd&d.